Good morning, everyone. This is Mujib Qazi, and you're watching Washington Roundtable. I'm here joined by State Representative Terry Meza, who is honoring the Kashmir Symposium here in Frisco, Texas. Terry, thank you very much for giving the time to VOKTV. What is your initial comments about this symposium?
Well, I've been attending some events before and learning about Kashmir. Not something that I knew much about before, but thanks to Raja Musaffar and his organization, I've been learning more and more each time about the situation in Kashmir. As a state representative, there's really not much in the state of Texas that we can do. It's more of an issue at the national level. But I represent a district in Irving that is a very diverse district that includes a lot of people for whom this is a topic of great interest. And so what's of interest and importance to the residents in my district is of interest and importance to me.
So as a representative of the people, obviously people who are living in your constituency, some of them have their families directly impacted the situation developing inside Kashmir.
Yes.
Especially after August 5th of 2019, when India imposed the curfew on like little over 10 million people and 1 million boots. So for every 10 people, you have one soldier who is keeping gun on them. All the civil liberties and everything has been pretty much shut down. So as a representative of the people here in the U.S., and primarily, obviously, it's the job of the Congress at the U.S. level, but representing the grassroots people, so the awareness is something that is very important. And this is what brings you here today in the symposium, that you will be sharing your thoughts with your message for the people of Kashmir who are watching you, and to some degree they are having this hope that somebody is raising voice for them.
The interesting that at the very time that we're celebrating the independence from Britain that happened in 1945, began the oppression in Kashmir and Jammu. So I think that that's interesting, that independence led to oppression. And so even though I'm only a state representative and not a congressperson, I'm opposed to oppression anywhere. And I was able to invite and include with me at one of the last events we had, my colleague, fellow state representative, Jasmine Crockett. And so she became aware of Kashmir and the situation there. And she is now leaving us in the House of Representatives at the state to join the House of Representatives in Congress in Washington, D.C. So it's good. You never know. Those of us who start out as state reps, like Jasmine, may become Congress people. And so it's good to have people at all levels be aware of the oppression. And I know that Jasmine Crockett joins with me in the feeling that that we always fall on the side of favoring the oppressed.
Well, I think that's a very powerful statement, and I thank you and applaud you for having the courage to stand up against oppression. And I think that is the theme of today's symposium, that we are trying to find the common grounds that can lead us towards the independence of the Kashmir. But this is just the beginning of the conference, and I will be back with you at the end of the conference as well. Well, thank you very much for giving us the time.
One other point, I guess, is that celebrating the 75th anniversary of the independence of India from the Britons. We also have independence in the United States from Britain.
Exactly.
And with independence comes self-determination and the right to governance, self-governance. And I would hope that there would be negotiations between India and Pakistan to allow Kashmir and Jammu self-governance.
Thank you. Thank you. I think that's exactly what people of Kashmir are aspiring to, and one day we do hope that that would come into realization. Thank you. Thank you very much. Beverly, thank you very much for giving the time out. And I know you're here attending Kashmir Symposium, trying to find the common grounds for the solution towards people of Kashmir. You have attended and contributed attending these different symposium, seminars, and conferences on Kashmir. Today's topic is finding the common grounds to meet the aspiration of people of Kashmir. What is your initial thought on that?
My initial thought is that there is no other option. As bitter as the feud is and the hatred is, it's unsustainable. The suffering of the Kashmiri people should be primary in these discussions. We tend to view this as a dispute between India and Pakistan, and the goal is simply to establish peace and then walk away. But there will be no peace until the Kashmiri people are allowed to determine their own future through a plebiscite as called for in 1947 and 1948 by the United Nations at the time of partition and afterward. The conflict has sapped both economies in India and Pakistan. The common people are suffering. There's massive unemployment. Meanwhile, billions of dollars are being spent on these military campaigns. This is a gross misallocation of resources. If peace were established, if both sides withdrew, if hostilities ceased, these resources could be allocated to health, education, jobs, alleviating poverty. They could be used much, much better.
I totally understand that what you're saying is something that any sane person will see the issue of Kashmir through these lenses. But the reality on the ground is totally different. All these billions of dollars that otherwise should have been allocated towards the betterment of people of Kashmir are being utilized to favor those who are in power. And
Yes.
in current situation, if you look at the military might that is being built on Indian side as well as on the Pakistani side, so what all they are doing at this time is to spend and make investment where the oppression is rising, the oppression to oppress people who are aspiring to find pathways towards their independence. Do you think, even though it has been stipulated in the UNO Charter, the human rights organizations, even in the US, but do you see any light in the tunnel that these people one day will stand up, they say, well, enough and enough, let them have a right of self-determination?
I admit it is a huge, huge challenge. But I think with South Asia being ground zero for climate change, there are other problems that are going to supersede this concern and perhaps force the two sides to come to some sort of a peace, hopefully withdraw. I think this will require a lot of pressure from the international community. I don't think India and Pakistan will ever do this by themselves.
So I think you have hit the nail. Somebody from outside, in this case we have to be blunt, unless until US intervene, we don't see any hope for people of Kashmir that they will be leading towards their independence. Would you agree with that?
The US and Europe and the developed Eastern countries like Japan, for example, yes, we need a lot of coordination and pressure from those countries. Diplomatic initiatives, probably backed with economic sanctions, which unfortunately hurt the people at the bottom the most. It's always an unattractive option, but it may be necessary. Pakistan is very dependent on US aid, and India is very dependent on US markets. And unfortunately, we may need to apply that type of pressure in order to bring these countries to the negotiating table.
Well, thank you very much for being on the show. And I think what we learn through the conversation with Beverly is that somebody has to take the charge. And in this case, Kashmiris have to take the lead on this to reroute the resources that are available, that are being used against them, versus that they need to be utilized in the favor of people of Kashmir who are being oppressed at this time. Thank you, Beverly, for being on the show.
Thank you,
Thank
Mujeeb.
you very much.